We've talked about insomnia and amnesia, and I've suggested just before at some point, I suggested that there is a sort of an interesting opposition, because with insomnia you've got this, well, you've got this idea of a perpetual consciousness, a sort of an eternal sort of process that doesn't end, being stuck in consciousness, whereas with an amnesia you're stuck in a kind of consciousness that doesn't really amount to consciousness because it doesn't continue across time.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I got interested with amnesia, you know, as an idea, and then it's very common, almost a cliche in fiction and in screen and so on. And the more I read about it, the more banal the representations of it seemed. And when I saw documentaries of people trying to explain how it feels to lose your memory from one minute to the next, they had to resort to the most simple ways of trying to get it across. I thought, but how can you talk at all? I mean, how can you use language if you don't remember? You know, there's some residue of consciousness and so on. And the more I thought about it, the more problematic it seemed. And then, of course, the thing about amnesia is a lot of it is, you know, there are physical injuries to the brain which can produce amnesia, but there's also psychological blocks which produce not amnesia but the individual's idea of what amnesia would be like. So this is kind of like my idea of what amnesia could be like.
Yes.
But within that notion of the moment that's suspended in time. So you're reliving this moment and you can't get out of the moment. So you're going to go round and round in it. But trying to construct a way out of it with materials that come to hand.
That are in there, or that are in that strange...
Yeah, which have to be there at that moment.
That vault in the mind that isn't memory but is strangely like it.
Yeah, which is some unconscious, some...
Platonic memory?
Well, I guess I might have thought of that in terms of some kind of Jungian models of the collective unconscious or something, but physically it's in terms of what artifacts are available to you at that moment to construct a reality out of it.
There's a bookshelf in the story, isn't there? In the main story, when I think of as the core story, is the one with the bookshelf. Because it seemed, that bookshelf seemed, well, it's not a bookshelf, it's a kind of coffee table in a sort of a dingy room somewhere in West Auckland.
That's right, with New Age texts on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, with Bruno there was like a spine narrative and these sort of offshoot narratives. With this one, it's hard to say what is the dominant narrative, what's the master one, but that's the hypothesis. I would,
as you sort of
that's stressed on the spine, for example, on the blur.
Yeah, as you excavate the book and the different stories that are happening, you realise that certain stories are drawn from those bookshelves in one way or another, so that bookshelf story is the one that they will derive from. But
of course that could still just be a phantom projection. The bookshelf could be yet another manifestation, something that lies behind it. So I guess that is a Freudian model, the masked memory and so on. So really you have no certain access to any level of this book which could convince you that this is the real level which all the others...
It's definitely the most disarming book to read for the reader. It's kind of... it really thwarts you in every direction.
Yeah, I just sort of was interested in the idea of how much of the scaffolding of a traditional novel you could take out, still have something recognisable as a novel. Like if you don't have a stable central character and you don't have any sense of time and you don't have a sense of narratives which are necessarily happening, what is there that makes it a book? And what I guess my idea was that the reader had to construct their book out of these materials and construct their theory of the book, but there would be clues, multiple clues, you know, innumerable clues. Yeah,
clues, nothing but clues, nothing but clues, yeah. Then you've got this kind of, you rotate the book kind of in a way.
That's right.
Spin it around, spin the book.
Or you open it from either end.
It's like a sort of a tacky 1970s party game. Or it's like one of those novels where you go, if you want to do this, turn to...
Exactly, yeah. You say,
you're a little bit older than me, but you are a child of the 70s, aren't you, really?
Pretty much, yeah. I had that hair and those clothes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's...
And Atlantis is, I mean, it's an idea that would have been fascinated people in the 70s, isn't it? I mean, it fascinates people in all times.
Yeah, I just like the fact that with Atlantis, that every country in the world has been proposed as a possible Atlantis, including completely landlocked ones which have never had any.
You've got this idea of a story that spins and spins and goes. It's the same thing as the
story is
nights,
self-perpetuating, can mean
Arabian
almost
Nights.
anything, but it certainly means something because people keep on telling it, if only to find out what it means.